On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla and EV podcast, Tesla has finally announced the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck, but it's very different from the one they first announced. I'll tell you all about what you get and what you don't on this cheaper version of Tesla's stainless steel truck. Plus, Tesla's imminent spring software update brings a much-requested new feature that should keep a lot of Model Y rear liftgates from getting dented, and more. What's happening, friends? Ryan McCaffrey joining you for episode 506 of your weekly Tesla and EV podcast. I call it Ride the Lightning. This one's publishing on April 13th, 2025, and there is so much to get to this week that I'm just going to jump right in, starting with the headline story. It turns out I was only 10 days off of my prediction that Tesla would introduce the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck by the end of Q1, because on April 10th, they did just that. However, what makes this particularly interesting is it's not the same 250-mile range, $62,000 truck that they first announced back at the Cybertruck's launch at the end of November of 2023, which, as you recall, that particular configuration, as announced, I didn't personally think was a very good value. Now, what they've delivered instead is quite different. And I will tell you up front that for me, at first glance, it sounded pretty darn good. But then the further I dug into it, the less appealing it sounded as I went through all of the differences between it and the all-wheel drive, aka the dual-motor Cybertruck. So let me tell you about all of those differences now, and you can decide for yourself how you feel about it. So the single biggest difference is the range. It is not, as previously announced, a standard range rear-wheel drive, and as such, it's not $62,000 before the tax credit. It is a long-range rear-wheel drive, as Tesla offers on both the 3 and the Y. Well, for the moment, not the Y, but it'll be back on the Y. But it's a long-range rear-wheel drive Cybertruck for $70,000. Again, that price is prior to the tax credit, which this configuration of the truck does qualify for. Now, as such, being a long-range rear-wheel drive Cybertruck, it's got 350 miles of range if you equip it with the default new, smaller 18-inch standard wheels. Yes, that is an 18-inch wheel that, in my opinion, I encourage you to take a look at it for yourself on the Cybertruck Design Studio. It's a more rugged look than the core wheels, which have been the default wheels and still are on the other two configurations. These 18-inch wheels are exclusive to the long-range rear-wheel drive. Now, on the downside, the truck doesn't come with a powered tonneau cover, or in fact, any tonneau cover at all. The truck you are delivered just has an open bed that cannot be sealed off or closed in any way. So what they're offering instead is a $750 soft tonneau cover that gets shipped to you later, even if you check the box in the design studio, and you put it on and you take it off yourself. So your stuff that's in the vault, that's in the bed, actually it's not called the vault anymore, we'll get to that in a second. So your stuff that's in the bed isn't exactly secure back there the way it is with the other Cybertrucks with the powered, hard, locking tonneau cover. But on the upside, the soft tonneau cover, should you equip that to your long-range rear-wheel drive Cybertruck, will boost your range from 350 miles on those 18-inch wheels up 12 more miles to 362 miles. Oh, and just in the interest of being thorough here, in case you're wondering, well, what if I don't want those 18-inch standard wheels? I want to go with the, in my opinion anyway, much cooler looking 20-inch Cyber wheels on this long-range rear-wheel drive version. You can absolutely do that and just pay for those wheels and all-terrain tires, but you eliminate most of the range gain. So the range in that configuration is 331 miles versus on the dual motor with the Cyber wheels, 314. So maybe not a huge difference. I mean, you're going from, 350, 362 if you've got the soft tonneau cover. So I guess it would be 331. It would be 343 with the soft tonneau cover, which actually that sounds pretty good. Maybe that would be a worthwhile trade-off for some people. Anyway, let's get to some more changes and differences here. And unfortunately, that range boost is about where the positives end for this configuration in terms of what you get compared to the other versions. The rest of these changes, the rest of these differences are all literal subtractions from the truck, and so it's up to you if they're things you care about. Maybe they're not, and maybe you think, well, this is going to be a good value for me. So here you go. On the long-range rear-wheel drive Cybertruck for $70,000, you do not get an adjustable air suspension, meaning not only will the ride not be as smooth, but you can't adjust the height of the truck up or down. Instead, you get an adaptive coil spring suspension. Performance, this one I suspect most people probably really wouldn't care about, particularly truck buyers, but performance is significantly lower, which it is on the other long-range rear-wheel drive cars too, the 3, the Y. The performance there, 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds, which I guess if you just compare that to other full-size trucks, still pretty good. But compared to the other Cybertrucks, not quite as good. It's 4.1 seconds, 0 to 60 on the dual motor, and 2.6 seconds for the Cyber Beast. We know that thing is, the name fits, Cyber Beast. It is very much that. Now, since it's not all-wheel drive, its towing capacity and payload are less. It can tow 7,500 pounds versus 11,000 pounds for the other two variants, and it can carry 2,006 pounds in its bed versus 2,271 for the Beast and 2,500 for the dual motor. On the inside of the truck, there's no white interior option. There are no interior options at all. The only thing you'll get is tactical gray, but it's not the same tactical gray that's in the other two. The seats are textile instead of vegan leather. That's the first time Tesla has offered a textile seat at least in the US, because they've got that Mexico Model 3 that has it. That has the textile seats. But here in the US, it's the first time any Tesla has offered textile seats in quite some time. So they are tactical gray, they're textile. The front seats do not have the ventilation and do not have the cooling functionality that comes with those ventilated seats. They are heated in the front, but the rear seats, rear textile seats, are neither heated nor ventilated. They don't have anything back there. Also missing from the second row is the second row screen for your kids or rear passengers to watch Netflix or play games. And the center console is described as a standard console versus the premium console that the other two Cybertruck variants have. For a minute, I wasn't sure what the difference is because I went and looked at the design studio renders of the interior side by side, long-range rear-wheel drive and dual motor, and I couldn't see any cosmetic differences from the render, but it turns out it probably is, in fact, by standard, they just mean the center console doesn't have the screen for the second row passengers on the back of it. Instead, it's just got, presumably, it's got climate control vents, manually controlled climate control vents back there. Also, not mentioned in the list of differences between the two versions, but one that I noticed in the design studio is the lack of aluminum pedal covers. The pedals are instead just black plastic, like they are on the non-performance variants of the Model 3 and the Model Y. Also, no HEPA filter for the cabin either, meaning no bioweapon defense mode in the long-range rear-wheel drive Cybertruck. Staying in the interior here for just one more second, you get half as many speakers for your sound system, 7 in the long-range rear-wheel drive versus 15 in the other variants, and you don't get the active noise cancellation feature that the more expensive versions have. Let's go to the bed. The bed of this Cybertruck is described as a standard bed upgradable with soft tonneau, versus, of course, the other versions with their vault bed with motorized tonneau cover. And so the difference between standard bed and vault bed is that there's no underbed storage compartment in the long-range rear-wheel drive. So the only storage back there is the bed itself. There are also no L-tracks on the bed in this new long-range rear-wheel drive either. Another thing lacking in the bed, are power outlets. There are none. There are also no power outlets in the cabin. In the other two versions of the Cybertruck, there is a 12-volt regular household outlet for the second row, and also one for the first row, for the front seats as well. There are 0 in inside or outside or in anywhere else in the truck in this version. You do still get a powered frunk, so that's cool. Glad that stuck around. Oh, and there's no light bar in the back. You just get the tail lights, the little line tail lights. There's no more nice continuous light bar that runs across the back. In the front, you get, quote, headlamps without signature lamps. But I have to be honest with all of you, I'm not sure what that means. I thought for a second that maybe it meant no light bar in the front, but the design studio renders show the lack of a rear light bar, but it still shows a glowing light bar in the front. So I'm not quite sure what the difference is in headlights there, but there is some sort of difference. And that's everything. That was a lot of differences, a lot of things stripped out of this cheaper version of the Cybertruck. So I'll give you my thoughts now. And as always, I'm enthusiastic about Tesla, but I'm honest here. And for me, look, I understand the decision to prioritize more range in a cheaper variant over a lower price. I mean, it is still $10,000 less than the dual motor, but it is more than the $62,000 price point that the standard range rear-wheel drive that would have had 250 miles of range would have had. Again, I just said I was not a big fan of that either for the price. And in my humble opinion here, with what they've actually delivered, I think they've removed almost everything that makes the Cybertruck fun and unique, aside from the hard freaking stainless body panels themselves. No air suspension, no power outlets in the bed or in the interior, no secure bed ever, thanks to no tonneau cover at all and only a soft cover as an option. I mean, unless you need a 6-foot bed, I have to humbly ask, hypothetically at least, why would you buy this over a new Model Y, which costs $20,000 less and gets similar range? This truck does get actually more range than the new all-wheel drive Model Y. We'll see. What will be interesting to see is to compare the long-range rear-wheel drive Cybertruck to the long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y once the Juniper version of that comes around. But as it stands, $20,000 difference in price between the new Model Y all-wheel drive and this new Cybertruck variant that's rear-wheel drive only. And the new Model Y, the reason that I'm making this comparison, you may think, well, Ryan, come on, that's not fair to compare those two. They're completely different classes of vehicle. And you are absolutely correct. But if you're just trying to decide which Tesla to buy, the Model Y still has quite a lot of cargo volume if you fold the rear seats down, and they are power folding rear seats at least. You can do it at the touch of a button, either from the back of the car or in the center touchscreen in front. Now, in fairness to the Cybertruck, your 6-foot bed does not come at the cost of any of the seating, either of the 2 rows of seats, whereas in the Model Y, for maximum cargo volume to even reasonably approximate, to come as close as you possibly can to mirroring the bed of the Cybertruck, you have to fold down the second row seats and thus only be able to seat 2 people in that Model Y. But still, again, if we're talking about such a massive gap in price, I think it's fair to just at least bring this up and let you think about it for yourself, depending, because again, if you're going to make a purchasing decision which Tesla you want, I think these are fair questions to ask yourself. And even if you think, no, Ryan, come on, that is dumb to compare a full-size truck to a mid-size crossover SUV. That's ridiculous. I'm not buying your premise here. Okay. You know what I think is probably a better buy than the long-range rear-wheel drive Cybertruck? A used dual-motor Cybertruck. They're out there. I took a quick look. You can't buy them from Tesla right now. Tesla's not offering used Cybertrucks yet. Eventually they will, I'm sure. But I took a look. I just Googled, and the first couple sites that came up were Auto Trader and Carfax. And so I took a quick look on there, and it uses my location, so it's showing me California used Cybertrucks. And near me, the dual motors, you could get a used dual motor for $75,000. So, in fairness, I do have to point out to myself, if to no one else, and to call myself out here, that $75K used, there's no tax credit on that. Because if you're thinking, well, wait, what about the $4,000 used EV credit? I double-checked that. That only applies if you're buying a used EV that has a price tag of $25,000 or less. You cannot get that $4,000 credit on a used $75,000 electric truck. So, no tax credit if you're buying a used dual motor for $75K. And if you fairly factor in the tax credit on a new long-range rear-wheel drive, $75K for a used dual motor would still be a good bit more than a $62,000 after-tax credit and with the soft-to-no cover long-range rear-wheel drive. So there's still a pretty good gap there, but it certainly narrows the gap compared to $80,000. I mean, it's $5,000 is not nothing. So I think what I'm going to do is make this, because I really want to hear your feedback on this. You've obviously heard how I feel about it. I want to make this the Patreon poll question for next week. This story broke late Thursday, so it was too late to put up a second poll for the week and get a decent sample size. I'll put this up for next week's Patreon poll, or I guess I should say, as you're listening to this next week's Patreon poll. But for me, I'm just not sure that this variant of the Cybertruck is going to move the needle too much, given how many things that Tesla's taken away from this version. I mean, yes, price is a huge factor. I've said that 100 times, and so having a version that's $10,000 less is very significant. I don't deny that. But they've stripped it way down to the point where if this had been available when I was seriously considering a Cybertruck last fall, before I pivoted to the new Model 3 Performance, I know hindsight's 2020, but I can pretty confidently say that this version would not have interested me in the slightest. It's just, for me, it just takes away too much of what makes the Cybertruck unique and cool and useful. So that's me, and we'll see with this week's Patreon poll, which I guess I'll try to get up earlier, maybe Monday instead of the usual Tuesday. So look for that new poll question on my Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. And the poll every week is open to everybody and anybody. You don't have to be backing me, supporting me on Patreon to vote in the poll. Okay, speaking of the Cybertruck, here's another, well, I won't say bad yet because I don't want to jump to conclusions, but here's another story that's, well, it's not a happy one. Let's put it that way. Regardless of, again, maybe for you, that 350, call it 362 mile range Cybertruck, long range rear wheel drive, that's going to do exactly what you want out of it. Great. But this next story, there's nothing great out of it, but I also don't want to jump to conclusions yet, but it is fair to bring up, and that is this. A number of folks in the Tesla community have noticed that the Cybertruck range extender, which had already been delayed from fall of 2024 to early 2025, and then most recently to mid-2025, the range extender has disappeared off of the Cybertruck design studio. It is gone. You cannot select it. It is not a thing. If you hadn't known about it before, you wouldn't be able to know about it now without hearing it from somebody like me. So again, I don't want to jump to conclusions here, but if it's not restored soon, and if it's something that in fact has been canceled, that's going to be a bit of a head scratcher because Tesla's been taking non-refundable deposits for this battery add-on ever since the Foundation series started production back in the end of November of 2023. So I would hope that if in fact Tesla has decided not to make this thing, that they will in fact refund those non-refundable deposits because those customers were making that non-refundable deposit as a commitment to buy it, not as a roll of the dice that it might end up leaving them completely empty-handed. They were buying a place in line there. They were putting a show of good faith in, yes, I am committing to this $16,000 add-on for the truck. So I really hope those folks are made whole with a refund of their non-refundable deposit if in fact Tesla has canceled it. And it's possible. I mean, we know what the Cybertruck sales numbers are. We have a pretty good idea based on the recalls, based on the quarterly numbers, even though the Cybertruck is lumped into other vehicles category with S and X. We know there are just not as many Cybertrucks out in the world as we thought and expected that there would be by this point. And so it is possible that Tesla's canceled it. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say that right now because all that's happened is it's not on the design studio anymore. So I don't want to unfairly jump to a conclusion. Tesla has not made any statement about this yet. If and when there are any updates to this story, as there have to be in some way, somehow, whether it's, if they don't want to publicly acknowledge a cancellation, they are going to have to message those people who did put down the deposit to at least let them know, sorry, we're not going to be making this after all. So there will be an update to this. It's just a question of when. And when that happens, I will be sure to mention it here on Ride the Lightning. Let's get to some good news about the Cybertruck after that potentially not so great news with the range extender. Tesla hit a milestone with the 4680 battery cell that powers the stainless steel vehicle. I saw this on Teslarati this week, who made a post about this announcement that was originally made on LinkedIn by Michael Guilfoy, Tesla's Giga Texas Director of Cell Manufacturing. And Michael wrote, quote, "Been waiting to acknowledge this great achievement by Tesla's 4680 cell manufacturing team since the end of last year. But as Elon announced last night, our cell manufacturing team in Texas reached a huge milestone at the end of 2024 with becoming the lowest cost per kilowatt hour battery cell producer for Tesla. The grit, determination, and passion of our team is unbelievable in helping deliver our mission. Big thank you to our entire engineering and production teams for making this happen. It's the greatest honor of my career to lead this team and make such an impact in our mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And we aren't done yet. 2025 will have more big milestones with fully ramped dry battery electrode manufacturing to deliver even more cost efficiency. Exciting times continue to be ahead. Cheers to this world-class team. Well, that honestly is an incredibly impressive achievement, considering how short of a time that the 4680's been in production compared to the 18650 cells that go into the S and the X for the last, 12? Wait, no, we're past that. We're coming up on 13 years for Model S, and, not quite that long on still over a decade. Or I guess we're just coming up on a decade of the Model X. Anyway, the S and X battery cell that's been in production for a long, long time, and of course the 2170 cell that goes in the 3 and in the Y. And that's a cell that's been in production for going on 8 years now. But that just shows you that A, there can be a big advantage to a clean sheet design done in-house, and B, that Tesla's battery team that Michael just understandably praised there, they are incredibly talented. And the reason that I say that is not only because, of course they are, but considering that the folks behind the 18650 cells and the 2170 cells, you may have heard of them. Their name is Panasonic. Well, they're pretty darn good at this battery thing as well. So I think this is quite an impressive achievement, even to somebody like me who doesn't really know anything about battery manufacturing. So kudos and congrats to that 4680 cell manufacturing team. And I know that I have continually called for a Cybertruck price cut, and we didn't actually get one here, which, by the way, I should note, I should have said this back when I was talking about the long-range rear-wheel drive. I thought that maybe there was a chance that the dual motor, and maybe the Cyber Beast, although the performance version kind of is always going to stay a premium price, but I thought maybe when the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck was finally made available, that maybe there would be a price cut on it and the dual motor at the same time. So in effect, they would just come in, that the rear-wheel drive would come in at a lower price and the dual motor would be getting a price cut. That didn't happen. We got the $70,000 long-range rear-wheel drive, dual motor still at $80,000, and so I think that probably takes a price cut on the dual motor off the table for at least a little while. Because I think if they were going to make a price adjustment on it, they would have done it right now with the introduction of the cheaper SKU, the cheaper version. Now, could Tesla still cut $5,000 off the dual motor, bring it down to $75,000? Yeah, they could, and maybe that would push more potential buyers who might come in and look at the long-range rear-wheel drive and go, well, for $5,000 more, I can still get the tax credit, and I can get all these other features that the long-range rear-wheel drive doesn't have. So could that happen? Yes, but my gut says that the Tesla probably will not do a price cut on dual-motor Cybertruck anytime soon. But the reason that my brain went back to that is because this 4680 cell manufacturing team story and this lowest cost per kilowatt hour milestone that they've reached, you did note that he mentioned that in 2025 they will have a fully ramped dry battery electrode manufacturing, which will only bring the cost of the battery cells down even lower in the vehicle that has the most battery cells in it. So news like this will be the thing that helps eventually drive a Cybertruck price cut. All right, let's stay in Texas and talk about Giga Texas down in Austin, where Tesla's preparing to turn its vision of an ecological paradise into reality, unveiling official plans and renderings that detail an ambitious public green space surrounding its Gigafactory in Austin. I saw this story on Drive Tesla Canada, who wrote, submitted to Travis County's Economic Development Office, the proposal outlines a sprawling riverfront park aimed at benefiting roughly 20,000 nearby households. The project, dubbed the GFTX Riverfront Eco Park, GFTX, of course, standing for Gigafactory Texas, will include 25 miles of walking trails and 18 miles of biking paths, interlacing the natural landscape with outdoor recreational opportunities. A highlight of the plan is a Tesla Expo and Sports Complex, which will feature facilities for soccer, baseball, basketball, and tennis. In addition to athletic amenities, the park will include a riverfront boardwalk, fishing zones, picnic areas, a children's playground, and a community orchard. Tesla's plans call for 3.78 miles of direct Colorado River access and 290 acres of preserved waterfront green space, making the area accessible not only to employees of Giga Texas, but also to the broader community. The automaker has committed to planting 3,000 trees annually and maintaining 8 designated wildlife corridors, positioning the park as both a recreational hub and a potential urban ecology anchor. So thank you to Drive Tesla Canada for that. And this, if this sounds familiar to you, it's because this whole project was first mentioned way back before Tesla even broke ground on Giga Texas. And so it's really great to see it take another real concrete step forward to becoming a reality, because it'll be really fantastic if Tesla develops this as described there, as a beautiful community space. And heck, having this completed probably won't hurt recruiting efforts either. If your potential future workplace has this gorgeous riverfront area to enjoy on your lunches and on your breaks. Now, sadly, there was no specific timeline given for this just yet in these documents, but this is nevertheless a noteworthy development in this long talked about addition to Giga Texas, and I sure hope that it happens soon, because it sounds like it will be absolutely beautiful once it's complete. On this topic, I thought I would ask you about which Tesla facility you'd most like to visit and take a tour of. So that was this week's Patreon poll question, which again is open to everybody. Patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Stop by every week, vote in the poll. You don't have to be supporting me on Patreon in order to cast your vote. So again, the poll question, which Tesla factory would you most like to visit and tour? And it was a runaway. 56% voted for Giga Texas, where the Cybertruck is being made. The Model Y, one of the 4 places the Model Y is being made. Optimus will be made there as well. Giga Texas, 56% of the vote. Coming in second at 21% was the factory over here in my backyard, the Fremont factory, which makes the S, the X, the 3, and the Y. 9% of you voted for Giga Berlin, which makes the Model Y, and it has the Rave as well, the Rave Cave. 6% of you voted for Giga Nevada, where they make the semi-trucks, that the semi-factory is underway there. They also make 2170 cells and packs, as well as the aforementioned 18650 cells and packs for S and X, and drivetrains get made up there as well. So 6% of you chose that. 5% of you voted for Giga Shanghai, and 2% of you voted for Giga Buffalo, which is where superchargers and solar panels get made. So thank you to everybody who kindly took the time to vote in this week's Patreon poll. Speaking of Patreon, I hope all of you who are kindly supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast enjoyed this week's lightning round mini episode. I do these every week on Patreon for the kind folks generously supporting me at the $10 per month tier or higher. A reminder that all tiers of the Patreon get an ad-free episode and early access to each week's episode. And then if you jump to that $10 per month tier, that's the most popular one, you get the ad-free, the early access, and those weekly lightning round mini episodes, including the entire back catalog of them, and there are over 130 of them. This week's was about, I called it the Island EV Report from the island that I went to on my family trip just, a week or so ago there. So I always just find it interesting to observe the car culture wherever I go. I mean, here it's definitely, there is a specific one here. It's very Tesla-tastic here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I told you about all the EVs I saw and the very surprising most common vehicle that I saw on my trip. So anyway, if you want to listen to that or any of the other 130-something lightning round mini episodes, you can join my Patreon, support the podcast over at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Also, I want to mention my friends at Accelerate Auto. This week's Ride the Lightning is brought to you in part by my friends over there at Accelerate Auto, who offer the X-Care EV-specific warranty. I've got one on my 2018 Model 3. I got to stop saying that. I've got one on my wife's Model 3. And I do think it's a great product. I've used it a few times. It's been super painless to use. Submitting a claim is really easy. Getting reimbursed is quick. And Accelerate Auto, I mean, that's their goal, is to make it quick and painless. They are redefining the electric car extended warranty. They're not thinking outside the box. They crushed and disassembled the box. But looking ahead and building for the future, it's not anything radical. It's what innovative organizations do. And that's why these folks, who are former Tesla employees, by the way, they went off and developed X-Care, which is a comprehensive extended warranty option designed exclusively for EVs. They also re-engineered the entire customer service experience, which I just kind of gave you a little quick sample of. And because, again, we know how bad that can go. And in my experience so far with X-Care, it has gone very, very well, very smoothly. And by the way, if you want to just cover your high voltage battery and your drive unit, the most expensive components of your Tesla, your vehicle may qualify for that coverage as well. Or you can add that on to an existing X-Care general extended warranty policy as well. It's very customizable, very flexible. I've got a 3-year, 40,000 additional mile policy on my wife's 2018 Model 3 Performance. You can go up to 10 years and up to 125,000 miles if you so desire. And best of all, because you're a Ride the Lightning listener, you get $100 off your policy, however you choose to configure it, when you select X-Care's one-time payment option. Just make sure you use the discount code LIGHTNING. Let's continue now with this week's Tesla news, and I have a fun one here. Tesla's planning a unique new supercharging station in a very famous place. I saw this via the Tesla community's foremost supercharger sleuth and superfan, Marco RP, who I've cited on this podcast before. If you'd like to follow him on X, his username there is Marco RPI and the number 1. He says a new supercharger is coming soon to Roswell, New Mexico. Tesla is currently planning a cyber UFO-themed station at the Whataburger on North Main Street. The site will feature 8 charging stalls located under a cyber canopy with RGB lighting fixtures and a 20.88 kilowatt solar array. The original drawings for the site date back to 2023. However, the information states that Tesla will be redesigning the site internally, meaning that this site may just include V4 stalls and cabinets after all in the final design. No permits have been filed yet. Thank you, Marco. Well, those original drawings, which he had images of on his X post, show a very sci-fi looking canopy over the stalls with a cool light bar on the front of it, almost like a giant Cybertruck front end. And as you heard from Marco's report, it's RGB, so the lighting can do all sorts of fun and crazy stuff if Tesla decides to, and I'm sure they will decide to. Tesla charging team member Max de Ziger, who I've also cited on the podcast repeatedly, as he is someone who kindly posts supercharging updates fairly frequently on his X account. Well, Max confirmed Marco's report, posting, quote, "We want to build a few superchargers cool enough to be worthy of the trip itself. Wish we could have kept it under wraps for longer, but submittal was needed for planning approval. We can't hide anything from Marco RP." And I have to say, responding to Max there, I love that philosophy. Build a few superchargers that are cool enough on their own to be worthy of just going to visit them, just for the sake of going to visit them. Now, of course, the drive-in diner in Hollywood will be that. It should be the crown jewel of all of those destination superchargers, if you will. Kettleman City, between San Francisco and Los Angeles, has long been one of those special superchargers that's worth visiting just to visit. Now, I can't say that I will personally drive all the way from San Francisco to Roswell to see this cyber UFO one when it opens, but hey, California can't have all the fun with all the special superchargers, so that's going to be super neat down in Roswell. I look forward to seeing the pictures of this one once it's done and once it's online, especially at night with that RGB lighting that they've got going on over there. Next, a late-breaking story. Just as I was sitting down to record, Tesla updated on X by posting this. The spring update features the spring release, spring software update. They say it will be rolling out shortly. So depending on when you're listening to this, it's possible you've already downloaded and installed it into your car. And if not, it should be coming along soon. Here is everything that's in it. And I think one thing in particular is going to jump out to most of you and be something that you're going to cheer. But the first thing on Tesla's list is adaptive headlights for US and Canada. High beams adapt to reduce glare for other drivers and cyclists by detecting other road users and selectively dimming individual pixels of the headlight. Your high beams stay on more often for greater visibility at night. If your vehicle has the necessary hardware, and I am very fortunate that my new Model 3 Performance does, you will see the setting under Controls, Lights, Adaptive Headlights. So looking forward to that one. Next, here's this one. S and X owners are gonna, you might audibly go, yes, when you hear this one. And that is, for you S and X owners, a blind spot camera feed on your instrument cluster screen in front of you. The blind spot camera feed is now available on the instrument panel. Go to Controls, Display, Automatic Blind Spot Camera, and select Driver Screen. So Tesla, that is overdue. I mean, I'm thrilled. I don't want to be a downer here. I'm just so glad Tesla's finally offering that, because that space, that instrument cluster screen, that extra screen that S and X have that 3 and Y and Cybertruck don't, that is just such a perfect use for it, is to put those turn signal cameras up there, and I'm glad that they are finally doing exactly that. Next up, here's another good one. Dash cam update and side camera recording. Now this says newer SX3 and Y. I'm not quite sure what newer means. They don't specify how new. My guess is this is going to require probably MCU 3 and or AI 4, which I think would mean 2022. I don't know when in 22, but those of you with the AMD Ryzen chip in your instrument cluster and AI4 in your car. So again, that's me speculating. I don't actually know, but most likely that's what they mean, because this is going to require some more horsepower, some more graphical horsepower. But Tesla says your vehicle's side cameras, the B-pillar cameras, will now be recorded to both dash cam and Sentry clips, increasing the total number of camera views from 4 to 6. The dash cam viewer app has also been redesigned with a grid view and quick access to the next video, making it easier to review recordings. And I just love that Tesla keeps improving this feature. This debuted, gosh, I'd have to look it up, and I didn't think to before the podcast to put it in my notes. But when I got my car in 2018, this was not a thing. Sentry mode was not a thing. It was added in, I'm going to guess 2019, because 2020 was the pandemic year. So it was probably 2019, could have even been fall of 2018. Anyway, the point is, this feature was introduced a while ago, and Tesla has slowly but surely just made it better and better and better over the years, and I love it. And again, it's free. We get this update for free. We don't have to pay a thing. Next feature in the spring software update, alternative trip plans. Tesla says multiple trip plans are now available for you to choose from, allowing you to better suit your travel needs. Also, when viewing a charger location page, nearby restaurants, cafes, and shops within walking distance are displayed at the bottom. That's nice. And the multiple options, the multiple trip plans, they've got them categorized this way. There will be a fastest option, which of course offers the quickest route. There is a best amenities option, which prioritizes stops near open and highly rated restaurants, shops, and restrooms. And then there is a fewer stops option that minimizes charging stops. So good stuff there. The navigation continuing to improve in our cars. Cybertruck gets comfort drive mode in autopilot. Your Cybertruck will now automatically transition to comfort drive mode when autopilot is engaged. My new Model 3 has this because I have the dynamic sports suspension, and it's set. There's an option which I have selected where when autopilot / FSD is on, it turns itself to normal suspension instead of sport suspension. So this is basically the same thing, but for Cybertruck. Also for Cybertruck, lane departure avoidance. This feature warns you if your vehicle drifts near or out of your lane. I would have thought the Cybertruck already had it, but I guess it does now. The rest of the fleet has this too, so good to see that get into Cybertruck. Now, here's the one that I teased at the very top of the show. This is the one I think will make a lot of you very, very happy, and that is save trunk height based on location. This is available for Model 3, Model Y, new Model S and X, and new Model 3. And of course, by Model 3, they're referring to the Model 3s with power trunks. So my 2018 and then what the 2019s were still manual. So obviously it doesn't apply there, but basically any Model 3 with a power trunk, which is most of them at this point, and then all the Model Ys, the new S and X, all get this. Customize the opening height of your trunk and save it as the default for a specific location, such as your garage. To set the height, manually adjust the liftgate to your preferred opening height, then press and hold the trunk close button until you hear a chime. This one, there have been listeners have called in about this. This one has come up. This one has been discussed. And I've talked about how, and I still see this on a fairly regular basis, I see Model Y out on the road that a lot of them that have dents in the same general area, like right along where the body panel kind of comes out the most near the bottom of the rear lift gate. meaning the part that would contact first if it goes up and hits something above it. I see a lot of dented Model Y rear liftgates, and so this will hopefully help alleviate a lot of that. So I highly recommend that anybody with a Y, with an S, and with an X take advantage of this. Now, Model 3, I mean, the trunk doesn't seemingly go up as high, but certainly the functionality is there. Just take advantage of it if you need to. So this is probably the number one feature of this spring update, in my humble opinion, based on what I hear from you guys, from the community. The Cybertruck gets a similar version where you can save the frunk height based on location. So of course, the height of that varies depending on if your air suspension is up or down in your Cybertruck, but you can now set your Cybertruck's frunk to not open all the way if you have some clearance issues where you park it. There's a navigation option to avoid highways when possible. Go to Controls, Navigation, and choose Avoid Highways, and then some different keyboard languages, and then one more here, Keep Accessory Power On. If you activate this option, use or charge devices through USB ports / inductive phone charger / low voltage outlets, depending on what your vehicle is equipped with, after exiting your Tesla, as long as the battery is at a state of charge of more than 20%. The minor updates Tesla list, I'll just blow through those real quick. Media search results are now filtered by sources, providing faster and more streamlined access to content. You can now shuffle an entire Apple Music playlist that contains more than 100 songs. Easily scroll through your SiriusXM favorites by tapping the steering wheel button left or right. Sign in with your Amazon Music free account. Requires premium connectivity or an active Wi-Fi connection. See what song will play next on YouTube Music playlists in the Up Next view of the media player. And finally, if your hotspot is enabled, it will automatically connect to your vehicle once you start driving, so you won't have to reconnect each time. So those of you that use that feature will probably find that to be a very welcome quality of life improvement. So lots of good stuff in the spring update that either is rolling out to our cars now or should be happening very, very soon when you hear this. Next, yes, there is still more to go. I've got, still got 3 more stories to tell you about. It is a very, very busy week. Tesla has removed forward collision warnings from the safety score formula with Tesla Insurance amid a class action lawsuit. I saw this one written up on Drive Tesla Canada, who wrote, Tesla has made a significant update to its safety score, removing one of the most controversial metrics, forward collision warnings, from the system's formula. The removal of FCW comes as the company is dealing with a potential class action lawsuit claiming the metric artificially inflated insurance premiums. Tesla first introduced its safety score system to Tesla Insurance in 2021. The system uses real-time driving telemetry to determine scores for several metrics, such as hard braking, aggressive turning, and more, all of which combine into one overall safety score. This score is then used to determine your monthly Tesla insurance premiums. If you have a good or high safety score, you get a lower insurance premium than someone who has a low safety score. There was one metric that was particularly controversial, and that was forward collision warnings. According to Tesla, forward collision warnings were triggered, quote, in events where a possible collision due to an object in front of the vehicle is considered likely without driver intervention, end quote. However, as Drive Tesla Canada notes, and I agree with, ask any Tesla owner and they will say the forward collision warning system is far from perfect, often giving out false positives when there was no real danger of a collision. It was enough of a problem that one owner from Illinois filed a potential class action lawsuit against the company, claiming customers were being overcharged on their monthly insurance premiums based on these false warnings. Tesla tried to get the lawsuit dismissed, but a judge ruled in December of 2023 that the case can proceed. As of the most recent update, Tesla was given an extension to October 2025 to collect evidence for their defense, but ahead of that court date, Tesla has quietly removed forward collision warnings from its safety score formula. Well, I must confess that as a guy who does a Tesla podcast every single week, I was not aware of this lawsuit until now, so I apologize for that. It's something I could have mentioned previously when it first came up. But we're here now, and Tesla must have seen enough to decide that it just wasn't worth the hassle of defending the lawsuit, and so they've instead gone ahead and made the update to Tesla Insurance and the safety score algorithm to eliminate those forward collision warnings from the equation. And as I said, I do have to agree with Drive Tesla Canada's editorial note there about false positives. I myself have encountered, and I still do on a regular basis, so many false positives. So many. And honestly, I'm okay with it under regular driving circumstances, as I would rather it be a bit too aggressive with the warnings than potentially miss something dangerous. But just driving on a road with curves in it that has cars parked on the side of the street will trigger that annoying triple beep that I'm sure you've probably experienced just as I have. And so, with forward collision warning having previously affected your safety score, which in turn affects that monthly insurance premium if you've got Tesla insurance in any state other than California, by the way, whose laws didn't allow it to do that. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it, but it was a thing with Tesla insurance everywhere but California. I would be pretty upset if I was a Tesla insurance policyholder outside of California and I had these fairly regular false positives dragging my safety score down and thus causing my monthly premium to go up. So for whatever the reason, whether it was because of the potential annoyance / cost / publicity of fighting this lawsuit, or whatever the reason may have been, I am glad that Tesla has made this change. And the final Tesla story that I have for you this week, before I do one other EV news story that will tie into Tesla anyway, but the last Tesla story is this. Tesla rebrands FSD and autopilot in China. This comes one more time via Drive Tesla Canada, who says, in a message sent to Tesla owners in China, the company stated that the name adjustments were made to, quote, better serve the Chinese market and implement the relevant national management regulations, end quote. The rebranding includes the following updates. Autopilot, automatic assisted driving, is now assisted driving. Basic assisted driving, which is a term they use over there, remains the same. Enhanced autopilot is now called enhanced assisted driving. Full self-driving capability, which had previously been renamed to FSD Intelligent Assisted Driving, is now referred to as Intelligent Assisted Driving. So Tesla emphasized that the name changes do not impact the features of the systems themselves or the rights of customers who previously purchased FSD or EAP. The functions remain identical to what was previously offered, but now come with a new name. Well, I found this one interesting because for a while, ironically, long before the FSD beta was a publicly accessible thing, and I never heard this kind of come back around once FSD beta was around, but back in the day, there was a lot of noise made by the Tesla fudsters out there about the name autopilot and how some people, fudsters, felt it was misleading. That noise, obviously, did eventually die down, since it's a thing we haven't really heard about in quite a while, mercifully. But in China, Tesla's just going right ahead and dropping the name autopilot, seemingly just out of not wanting to fight Chinese regulators over it, which, at least that's my interpretation of the quote about implementing, quote, relevant national management regulations. So seemingly that's the cause for it. Same functionality, but no more calling it autopilot or FSD. And lastly this week in other EV news, and I want to shout out my friend Greg who sent me this one, and it comes courtesy of Business Insider, who writes, ex-Tesla employees want to launch a new Roadster before Tesla. Daniel Davey and fellow Tesla veteran Mark Tapscott are looking to fill the void left by the new Tesla Roadster announced in 2017 that still hasn't seen the light of day. The two electric car enthusiasts founded British EV startup Longbow in 2023, along with Jenny Kaisu, the former CEO of electric boat maker X-Shore, and are now looking to disrupt their former employer with a range of lightweight electric sports cars. Longbow's first vehicle will be the Speedster, a limited production $112,000 open-top sports car that the company describes as a, quote, statement of intent, with deliveries beginning next year. That will be followed by the Roadster, an $85,000 production vehicle that serves as a nod to Tesla's infamously delayed supercar. Quote, the Tesla Roadster was announced in 2017. On the day, people were paying deposits by credit card there and then for $250,000. It was called the Tesla Roadster 2020, said Davey. We will deliver a Roadster before Tesla delivers a Roadster, and ours will be lighter and cooler, he added. Davey and Tapscott joined Tesla in the early 2010s and helped launch the Roadster and the Model S in Europe. Quote, I was employee 650, spent some time in California, then came to Europe with the Roadster back when there was no charging infrastructure. No one knew who Tesla or Elon was, and all of it was uphill, said Davey. The two went on to work at a who's who of EV companies, including Lucid, Hyundai, Chinese automakers like BYD. Davey, who returned to Tesla in 2018 to launch the Model 3 in Europe, told BI that harnessing their wealth of experience would be key to avoiding the fate of other failed EV startups. Quote, we have done this multiple times, and all our peers who could do this are moving their way up to VP/senior VP level and working in VCs because they're not crazy enough to apply that knowledge at the beginning again, he said. That makes it an unusual time to launch a mid-range electric sports car, but Longbow's co-founders believe the lack of competition gives the startup an opening. Quote, it's a scandal that no one else is focusing on this segment, said Davey. We're passionate about the products in the segment, but from a logistical perspective, it is the best place to be building cars. You have the best margins and there is no competition, he added. And the rest of the story goes on to talk about how they're mostly sourcing parts from other existing companies, so they don't have many bespoke parts to build themselves. And that strategy worked for, yes, take a shot if you're playing the Ride the Lightning drinking game. That strategy worked pretty well for a bit for the DeLorean, at least in terms of actually getting the car to market, because my beloved DeLorean has a Peugeot, Renault, Volvo engine, PRV6. It has a Bosch fuel injection system, etc. It's a lot of off-the-shelf, like stuff from suppliers, not a lot of bespoke stuff. Now, I certainly, getting back to this story with Longbow, I certainly wish these guys well, because I do agree that it is a crime that there isn't a reasonably affordable EV sports car, and there pretty much aren't any EV sports cars at all, like meaning two-door, open-top sports cars. I mean, even Tesla's new Roadster itself, if and when it ever arrives, will have supercar performance, but also a supercar price. There's just nothing in the EV space here in the North American market that's in the kind of Corvette price range that these guys are aiming for. And I guess to conclude this, I'll say that I get why these guys would invoke Tesla's name. I mean, in fairness, A, they used to work there, but B, the Roadster has been hyped and promised for the better part of a decade now. And then C, the cynical response here is mentioning Tesla will help get them in the news, which they want, right? They want publicity. And so I hope if this vehicle effort, whether it actually makes it to market or not, I hope if Longbow accomplishes anything, and I do hope they get cars to market, but if it accomplishes anything, I hope it helps get Tesla's collective butt in gear to get the Roadster finally into production and out the door and onto the roads. So again, I hope these guys can get their car to market. It's an extremely tall task, but one that, as they noted, they do have a lot of experience with. I hope that at the very least, it helps light a fire under Tesla to get their Roadster done. That is everything in an extremely busy week of Tesla news. Stick with me. I'll be right back with a few of your Ride the Lightning hotline phone calls, right after this.
This is Bill Daniels, the voice of Light Industries 2000, or KIT. You're listening to Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast. Happy electric motoring.
Welcome to the Ride the Lightning hotline. This is your chance to call in and possibly be featured on the podcast. So if you've got a Tesla or other EV question, comment, or discussion topic, there are two easy ways to call in. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question, and then email it to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same question, please either way, no matter how you call in, try to keep your question to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible. You can just call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's a toll-free number, and that number is 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. First up this week is Stefan from Monterey.
Hey Ryan, it's Stefan from Monterey. I wanted to ask you your opinion, having a version 3 and a version 4 car, how you might compare the full self-driving software versions on your two cars. I've got a 2018 version 3 car with full self-driving, and the software updates are lagging behind. I know Elon has talked about having to upgrade those cars to the version 4 hardware. I'm wondering when you think that might happen, and your general thoughts on your two cars and how they differ when it comes to the full self-driving. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, Stefan. It's always great to hear from you. I appreciate your call. I'm happy to speak to this as I do drive both of the cars often enough that I've observed some differences. I will say that overall, I don't personally find them to be drastically different, at least for now. I put a qualifier on that because based on the frequency and content of the updates that my Hardware 3 car has been getting, it really truly feels like the Hardware 3 architecture is running out of steam, that it's pretty maxed out. I'd be thrilled to be wrong about that, and for the Tesla AI team to continue to pleasantly surprise all of us with Hardware 3 cars. But as you noted, Elon himself has acknowledged that a retrofit upgrade is going to be necessary. And if I recall correctly, even Tesla AI folks have stated that Hardware 3 is pretty tapped out. The big issue for me right now on the Hardware 3 car is lane drifting. It's been improved slightly in the last couple of minor updates, but it is still, as of right now, as of recording this, a very genuine annoyance on my 2018 car, whereas it got updated and fixed a while ago on the 2024, on the Hardware 4 car in the garage. Of course, the scientific thing to do, right, to really get to the heart of your call, would be to have both cars follow each other to and from fixed waypoints, and to do it twice. One with the Hardware 3 car leading the whole time, there and back, and then the second time with the Hardware 4 car leading there and back. But I don't... That's a scientific experiment that I do not have time for. But anyway, what I'm trying not to think too hard about right now, but will eventually have to confront, is whether the question of whether or not even Hardware 4 is going to be good enough. I mean, it seems like we're in pretty good shape, but the Cybercabs are all going to be running AI5. I guarantee that. I mean, hopefully I'm just overreacting to the possibility on that, but my brain can't help but go there. I mean, Tesla does, we are going to be getting driverless robo-taxi rides in existing AI4 cars, says Tesla, this June. So hopefully that runaway thought is not one that I need to take seriously, but it really does, I will say, fairly seriously, it really does feel like we've seemingly reached the end of the line for Hardware 3. Hope I'm wrong, but there are definitely differences already between the two. Cheers, Stefan. Thanks so much for calling in. Next up this week is Craig from Indiana. Go ahead, Craig.
Hi, this is Craig from Indiana. I just heard about Toyota in their roadmap that they were going to have batteries in their vehicles that could go up to like 700 miles on a single charge. And I was just curious if you'd heard anything from Tesla on what theirs are going to be like in the next 3 to 5 years. Because I think Toyota said by 2028, so I didn't know if Tesla had something similar. But yeah, hope to hear it on the show if you use it. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, Craig. Thanks for your call. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the EV community, myself included, that don't put a lot of stock in Toyota's words. And the reason for that is because they've been promising big things with EVs for a long time now, and they've yet to deliver anything really substantial. I mean, their one EV right now, the BZ4X, has gotten lousy reviews. Go check out Doug DeMuro's review on it. And it tops out at a measly 250 miles of range, which is just unacceptable in today's market, especially for the price of that car. I mean, it'd be one thing if it were a $25,000 car. It is not. Do I want Toyota to get serious about EVs? Absolutely. They are one of the biggest car companies in the world, and if they would embrace EVs wholly, it could really help the greater EV movement. But cynically, they have a lot of money tied up in their hybrid technology. So from that cynical perspective, it's understandable why they might not want to transition away from that, particularly with how large an investment it would take for them to jump head first, just all the way into full battery electric vehicle manufacturing. Now, speaking purely anecdotally, in my neighborhood, when I first got my Model 3 in 2018, there were Priuses, or Prii, again, I never know what the plural is on that. The Toyota Prius was on every block, and that's not an exaggeration. Now, in 2025, those cars have mostly been replaced by EVs, including a ton of Teslas. There are now Model 3s and Model Ys on just about every block of my neighborhood these days, and that's just street parked cars. Mine's in my garage. I mean, we've got one of them on the street, but there are probably more that are in garages because they're plugged in, right? But there are a ton of Model 3s, a ton of Model Ys, just a ton of EVs in general. They have largely replaced the Toyota Priuses in my neighborhood, just as, again, anecdotally speaking. And I think it's fair to say that the Model 3 completely ate the Prius's lunch, at least here in my neck of the woods, and I would be comfortable saying that on a larger scale as well. And I just have to say, I really feel like that if Toyota had been serious about EVs years ago, they could have transitioned the Prius into a full battery electric vehicle, and it would have done great, because obviously what the Prius customer wants the most above all else is efficiency. And an EV is about twice as efficient as a Prius if you're looking at miles per gallon equivalent on the EV side. And if Toyota had done that, they'd probably be an established big player in the EV space right now. But I guess I'm getting off track a little bit. To get back to your question, I would be willing to bet lunch at In-N-Out Burger that Toyota does not, in fact, deliver a 700-mile range car in the next decade, let alone the next 3 to 5 years. And Tesla will have a 500-mile range car by then, probably a Cybertruck at the very least, that was originally promised to be a 500-mile. They will have a 500-mile Cybertruck in the next 3 to 5 years, I have no doubt. And of course, there's the new Roadster as a halo car. But in general, Tesla's moving down market into lower priced cars, which, based on the sales of SX and Cybertruck and Lucid, like I talked about last week, seems like Tesla's strategy is the more promising strategy, going down market, not up. Now, will there come a day when a 700-mile range EV is a super affordable thing? Maybe, but I think that's a long way out. And also, 700 miles is just too darn much for most customers. Like, think about it. Why carry around all of that extra battery weight if you'll almost never need it? So I do think the average EV range across the board will go up in the next 3 to 5 years, but I don't think we're going to get anywhere near 700 miles as a thing at all, let alone like a normal thing that's on most EVs. 300 as the bare minimum, which is pretty much where we are now, and not just Tesla, but with most manufacturers. 300 is the bare minimum. That's a good start. And then higher end models with 400 and 500 miles, that's where we're heading, I think. So, Craig, thank you so much for calling in. I do appreciate it. Finally this week, I want to take a not so serious call, but a fun one from our friend Bill from Wisconsin, regular caller, longtime listener, big supporter of the podcast. He is, here he is responding. You may remember last week, I made a very silly Red Lobster analogy and was talking about how much I love Cheddar Bay biscuits, the best reason, and in my opinion, really the only reason to go to Red Lobster. Well, Bill had a response to that, so here he goes.
Hey, Ryan, it's Bill from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, America's Dairyland. I just wanted to let you know that the only thing that makes Cheddar Bay biscuits better than they are at the restaurant is using genuine, sharp Wisconsin cheddar cheese when you make them. Am I biased? Probably. But I'm telling you, it doesn't get any better than using fresh Wisconsin cheddar. That's all. See ya.
Thank you, Bill. You know what? I'm going to treat that like a dare, and I'm going to do it. I've got a bunch of boxes of Cheddar Bay biscuit mix in my pantry right now. So the next time that I make some, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to think of you, and I'm going to make sure that I use the freshest Wisconsin sharp cheddar cheese that I can get my hands on out here in California. And you know, you're also reminding me that I'm going to need to go find some Wisconsin brick cheese as well in order to properly attempt to make Detroit-style pizza in my awesome home pizza oven that I've been having so much fun with that my wife got me for Christmas. So, Bill, thank you so much for your call. Thank you to everybody that kindly took the time to call in. I will get to more of your Ride the Lightning hotline calls next week, so keep those calls coming if you've got something to say. And now, as I start to wind down the podcast, we reach the Soul of Adventure part of the show where I tell you about what's going on with my car. And it turns out that my two noise issues aren't quite resolved. One of them definitely is. The plasticky rattle that sounded like it was coming from the passenger side of the dashboard or the door, that's gone. That's for sure gone. It turned out to be a missing clip that holds part of the fender to the body. So Tesla took care of that. That noise is squashed. But the other noise that hasn't been squashed yet, I was able to track down the culprit to that high-pitched sound that seemed like it was on the outside of the car, and it was only at higher speeds. And it's from a tiny gap. I'm talking a fraction of an inch gap in the seal at the top of the driver's side corner of the windshield. There is a rubber gasket / seal there to keep wind from bouncing around in and whistling around inside the space between the windshield and the roof glass. And on the driver's side, my seal is not fully there. It doesn't fully cover that gap the way it does on the other side and really on the entire rest of the length of it. So in that corner, it's short, and so there's wind getting around in there. So I put some blue painter's tape over it, and I went for a drive, and sure enough, the sound went away. So that's definitely it. For sure got it diagnosed, and I've got an appointment for it this coming week. And I'm not sure if Tesla's going to be able to fix it without removing the windshield and replacing that entire seal. I don't want that. I've got a tinted windshield. I'm not looking for a new piece of glass. So if they can't, kind of MacGyver something in there without removing the glass, I've asked I guess we'll just see how it goes. I've said, don't remove the glass. Hopefully you can replace this. Hopefully they've seen it before. I imagine they've probably seen it before, but I said, in the app, I just said, worst case, if you can fashion some kind of semi-permanent Band-Aid to fill that gap, because I certainly don't want to drive around with blue painter's tape on my roof glass forever. So that I don't want, but we'll see what Tesla can do for me at my next appointment. Time for your Tesla Pro Tip of the Week. It comes from longtime listener Damon in Northbrook, Illinois.
Hey Ryan, Damon out of Northbrook, Illinois here with a tip regarding the climate control systems. And it's how you used to power down the climate system is by holding down the fan, or at least a shortcut for it was holding down the fan in the lower taskbar for a second or two and would power down the climate system. And I thought that was gone in the new UI update, but it kind of works in the same way. If you hold down the temperature, either on the driver's side or the passenger side, it will give you a couple seconds and then power down the climate system just like it used to. But I think also something, it might have been in a recent update, but people were complaining about not being able to do heated seats independent of the climate control system unless you use the voice controls or the app to turn on the heated seats. But now, if you turn on your heated seats while the climate control system is on, front, rear, passengers, whatever, and then power it down either with the power button in the upper left or with the method I just described, the heated seats stay on. So I don't know if that was always there or people didn't realize it, but it's there currently, at least in my car. So hopefully that eases that issue for some people. Anyhow, as always, love the podcast, love the great effort, and really appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
Thank you very much for that, Damon. I definitely use that hold the fan button down to turn off the climate control shortcut all the time. So right there with you. Love that one. But you're right. It's not an obvious one, in case folks didn't know that. You don't have to tap the number, the temperature number to bring up the climate screen to then hit the little power button. You don't have to do that. You can just hold down on the number and it will turn it off. So thank you very much for sharing that one. Good note about the seat heaters as well. Thank you so much, Damon. And if anybody else out there, and this is a sincere plea, I am at the point now, I need more pro tips. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel in my archive. So if you've got a good Tesla pro tip of the week, I would be greatly appreciative if you would call in with that. And again, I gave you the call-in instructions for the Ride the Lightning hotline a few minutes ago. You can send in a pro tip the exact same way. So either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software or just call in to the toll-free Ride the Lightning hotline number. Thank you very much in advance for submitting your pro tips. I know I'm pushing 90 minutes on this episode, but before I go, I just want to mention a couple of vendors that might be useful to you in your Tesla or EV ownership experience at some point in time. Maybe that day is today, maybe it'll be down the road, but just keep it in mind. The first one is abstractocean.com. Head on over there, click on whichever EV you own, and it will show you all of the many dozens upon dozens of excellent aftermarket accessories that are available for and compatible with your EV. The rear footwell lighting kit is an awesome one. I love that for the Model Y. There's of course, the tempered glass screen protectors that are custom fit for all the Teslas. The Roadster style, actually now it's every car style, the TESLA lettering. If you want to take your T badge off the back and do the word mark, the TESLA, you could do that. There's just so many cool accessories, so many things you can check out. Take a look, abstractocean.com. And if you see anything you like, throw it in your online shopping cart. And when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTLPodcast to get 15% off of your first order. That coupon code again is RTLPodcast, all one word, no spaces. Don't forget about SnapPlate, found at everyamp.com/RTL. The SnapPlate is the nice, minimalist front license plate bracket that is, in my opinion, the cleanest and most attractive way to put a front license plate on your Tesla should you either desire it or should your local government or state government require a front license plate. So check them out at everyamp.com/RTL. The snap plate is safety optimized with breakaway features to sacrifice itself in a worst case scenario, like a parking accident or a car wash. There's also the Snap Plate Plus, which is strength optimized with hardened features for maximum strength. Both have that signature minimalist aesthetic that blends in really nicely with the front end of your Tesla. And both are made from recycled, made in the USA plastics with stainless steel reinforcements. There's a coupon code for this too. So when you go to everyamp.com/RTL, you choose whichever snap plate you want, you throw that in your cart and you get to check out. Don't forget to use the coupon code RTL as well. If you're in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area with your Tesla or another car in your garage that you love, I do very much recommend treating that vehicle to a spa day at Immaculate Reflections, a wonderfully talented professional automotive detailer. Whether you want paint protection film over some or all of the car, whether you want ceramic coating on your car so that you don't have to wax it for the next 3 to 5 plus years because ceramic coating will last much longer and protect that finish from the sun's UV poison. Maybe you want to do paint correction to get all the little swirls and flaws taken out of your paint finish and get it looking its absolute best. Maybe you want to mix and match. You want to do a couple of those, all that. Whatever you want to do, the thing to do is reach out to Immaculate Reflections through their website, which is found at irdetailing.com. You'll see the contact form there. And when you reach out through that contact form, you can ask what you want to do or mention what your budget is. Just Jeff, the owner there, will respond and he'll take good care of you. He'll work with you. And mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and any work that you book in at Immaculate Reflections, you will have the Ride the Lightning listener discount extended to you. Finally, I would be humbled and grateful if you would take a look at my Patreon page if you have not done so already and consider a pledge. Your support is crucial to me continuing to do this podcast week in and week out. I'm so grateful to the folks that are backing me at any tier. And again, as a reminder, like I mentioned near the top of the show, or at least earlier in the podcast, every tier of the Patreon, and the tiers start at just $5 a month. So for $5 a month, you can be supporting the podcast, and in return, you'll get an ad-free version of the episode each week, and you'll get that ad-free version early. So the regular show goes out at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific every Sunday. But on Patreon, it goes out to Patreon backers as soon as I've finished recording, editing it, and uploading it. So that's typically on Friday evenings, so you get it a decent bit early, in addition to getting that ad-free version as well. And if you step up to that $10 tier, the most popular tier, you'll get those things every week, and you'll get those weekly lightning round bonus mini episodes as well. So please check out my Patreon page if you get a chance. It can be found at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. The link is also in the episode description if you just like to click it from there as well. Make sure you're following this podcast on any of the major podcast services. And the reason for that is it's totally free. And the reason you would want to do that is so that anytime there's a new episode, you just get a push notification on your device. You don't have to go seek the episode out. The episode will, in fact, politely seek you out. So whether it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or TuneIn or YouTube podcasts, just type in Ride the Lightning Tesla Podcast in the search. Should pull this podcast right up. Then you just click the follow button and you're good to go. That's all it takes. Finally, you can follow me on X and or on Instagram. I have the same username on both, and that username is DMC_Ryan. You can email me anytime about Tesla and EV related things at my email address, which is teslapodcast@gmail.com. And as always, before I wrap up the podcast, I want to say hello and thank you to the top tier Patreon backers. These extra generous folks are pledging at the highest tiers, which, among many other things, gets them a weekly shout out, I should say. And for the maximum plaid and Roadster and Space tier backers, gets them invited to each month's Patreon Zoom hangout. The April one is happening tomorrow, as I record this, probably in the past for most of you listening to this, but I am looking forward to chatting with everybody. So I will start with the maximum plaid backers, who I hope to see many of at the hangout tomorrow. They are Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger. Todd Badger. My goodness, I really need to go to bed. That's what I'm learning here. Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Adam Christie, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Clayton Goodfellow, Michael Mizrahi, Kenneth Corbett, Brian Bertoglio, as mine has decided to, come on, just put your paws up in my lap. You need some attention, huh? I know, the podcast is about over. I'm about done. You've been very patient. Brian Bertoglio and Kim Bay. Next up, the Roadster in Space tier backers. Big thanks goes out to Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Kara Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, Doug Carey, Rav, Michael Gallo, and Tony Figueroa. Finally, the grandfathered in plaid level supporters. This tier is officially no more, but these kind folks continue to pledge at this tier, so they continue to get all the perks and bonuses that they should, including this weekly shout out. So thank you so much to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas. Oh my goodness, folks. I'm going to need to borrow that for a minute. I'll give it back to you in 60 seconds. I'm almost done. Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk in quotes, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado, BAER, the Bear Boys of Colorado. Thank you all so much for your continued and generous support. I know this was a long one, but there was a lot to cover this week. So we've got the earnings call coming up on the show after next week. So that'll be another big one, but I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about next week as well. So until then, happy electric motoring, my friends, and I'll see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.